The Crypto Markets Update is brought to you by KuCoin, the best place to find the next crypto gem.
All right, is it going up? Is it going down? Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Greg King, founder and CEO of crypto investment firm Osprey Funds. Hello there, Greg. So Bitcoin is down about 40% from its peak of $69,000 in November. Are we in a crypto winter of sorts?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it feels pretty balmy out here compared to the other winters we've had. If you live through those, you know, this is still shorts weather. But I think that the market's digesting a number of things. So number one, crypto is trading a lot more like tech. You have correlations between, let's say, Bitcoin and the Nasdaq that went from essentially zero as recently as a few months ago to almost 0.5. Right, that's still a diversification away from markets, if you will, but they are a bit more correlated. And why is that? I think the broader space, everything outside of Bitcoin that's happening in crypto is tech investing. There is a lot of commonality between investing in a lot of these crypto projects, let's say like a Solana or like a Polkadot or something along those lines, to emerging technology companies. So you have that, and remember that companies. Let's use that term broadly here, that don't have earnings are very sensitive to interest rates, right? Because you have to discount the
So are you seeing a correlation
value
with traditional markets and the inflation and the Fed being more hawkish?
Exactly. So just look at what's been happening with 10-year rates recently, right? You see that ramping up. Everybody's been talking about that in more traditional space. Risk assets like crypto are going to sell off or experience a bit of churn as the market adjusts to a different macro environment. So we see this as temporary. Can't say how long it'll last, but we're still bullish, obviously, the space. And I would suspect that at the end of the year, values are much higher than they are now.
So, Greg, I kind of want to go a little bit further into this whole idea that, crypto trades more like a Nasdaq tech stock than it would an inflation hedge. Because, guys who walk around with backwards white baseball caps and Oakley sunglasses will tell me that this is the ultimate inflation hedge. But you don't see that happening right now in terms of, the macroeconomic factors such as the ridiculous amount of inflation we've been witnessing over the past few months. You don't think that that's a factor? It's more of this unease about tech in general, which might be leading to this sort of, if not total sell-off, at least weakening in the markets.
Well, if you think about the whole concept of inflation, and of course we know historically inflation's been on average 3%, right? The thing about inflation is it's insidious. Right, you kind of typically don't really notice it's happening. It just nibbles away at your purchasing power over long periods of time. Emphasis on long, right? So I think as an inflation hedge over, 5-10 years, I think crypto is an amazing potential inflation hedge because of the appreciation that we would expect. Just like stocks are, right? People tout stocks as an inflation hedge. If on a day-to-day basis you're trying to hedge, moves in the 10-year. I wouldn't necessarily look to crypto to solve that purpose, but I don't think most investors think that way. I think investors are concerned because inflation is up, and they should be. But what's the way to combat that? I think the way to combat that is to devise a portfolio that you think is going to appreciate substantially more than inflation over time. And from that perspective, I think crypto is a great consideration.
But nonetheless, I mean, if there is this view that tech stocks and crypto do trade very closely together, why wouldn't somebody, let's say, take a leveraged position in tech at the moment? If that's the case, if they're going to play this market over the next, let's say, 12 months, 6 to 12 months, why not just take a leveraged position in tech equities and not face the kind of volatility that you might see in crypto?
Well, I think, depending on your leverage, that could be a more volatile position to take. And of course, then you're substituting in a different set of underlying potential returns. If you're, for example, bullish on Solana, but then you're taking a leverage tech bet, it's just a different bet. we want to be part of this move away from centralized technologies, right? And that's what crypto represents. We're very bullish on the ethos of crypto, on what's happening. I think it's much more than just blockchain and cryptography. It's really about how people want to interact with each other, how they want to make investments, how communities want to gather together and around what projects. And I think that that's just going to take over time. But right now, people are focused on the macro environment because of inflation. I mean, these are numbers we haven't seen in a very long time. And so everybody's adjusting. The other thing I should point out is crypto has a lot more institutions involved now, right? And they're going to be a bit more concerned around quarter ends, year ends, things like that. And so I think overall volatility will continue to come in as you have more players in the crypto space. But you could see a bit more adjustments being made in relation to macro factors like interest rates.
Greg, just shifting focus a little bit, one of the themes of 2022 that many have brought up, and I believe you have thoughts on this as well, is the rivalry between ETH and some, other, depending on who you ask, some Solana or Polkadot. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. Do you think this is going to be the year when those really come to a head?
I don't know if they'll come to a head, but I think the battle will definitely heat up. So you have Polkadot, for example, is probably the best example there. Founded by Gavin Wood, he was the chief technology officer for Ethereum, left the project 4 years ago or so, I think, to create Polkadot, which is almost like a layer zero chain that envisions a multi-chain universe and interoperability between the two. But the issue with Ethereum, as everyone knows, is gas fees are so high. It's in huge demand because of NFTs and DeFi. But there are projects like Polkadot, like Solana, that are starting to nibble away at that. And I do think that'll heat up. Last year, there was such a push, and those projects weren't quite there yet. But you have the parachain auctions that have started now with Polkadot. And so, yeah, it will definitely heat up this year, I think.
Do you have a price prediction for Solana, for example? Because, Solana grew by an amazing % last year. So I'm curious what you think will happen this year.
No, I don't have a specific price prediction. I think that the market share, if you think about the NFT space, for example, I think that their market share will absolutely grow relative to Ethereum's. I think that, they've experienced a few network issues this year, but I've said previously that this is investing in crypto is like investing in tech companies, but with the visibility of what's happening, as they develop their software. And so we all see the kind of fumbles and foibles in real time, and that's good and bad. It produces volatility, but it also brings transparency, and so that's great. But Solana's getting there, and I think they'll take a larger market share this year than they did last year, for sure.
Are you seeing the greatest returns out of NFTs? And if so, how are you navigating the NFT space, and where do you see the most opportunity?
Yeah, so NFTs are really interesting, and that's a broad term. I think right now it applies mainly to what a lot of people would consider art projects, right? Digital art. These are pieces of web culture. And NFTs, in the face of an overall sell-off in crypto, are still on the rise.